We have a surprising New York Knicks update as Josh Hart has revealed the truth on his injury that he has suffered. And this is just another guy who's gotten a lower leg injury with Tom Thibodeau playing them heavy minutes as Josh Hart joins Karl-Anthony Towns and OG Anunoby on the injury list for lower leg injuries. And we're going to have to break all this down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. And guys, if you are enjoying the content and you want daily New York Knicks news, rumor reports, updates on injuries like this video, updates on the buyout market, a bunch of fun stuff, some great live streams. We might do a live stream probably tomorrow, something like that, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But guys, make sure to join that 32.5% if you want all that stuff. But let's jump into this, guys. Josh Hart has gone down with an injury, and it's definitely concerning because everything we're seeing has led to him speaking out on this injury and giving not a great update, as Josh Hart did discuss the idea of getting surgery on his knee, which would obviously be the last thing that Knicks fans want to hear out of Josh Hart, is that he's getting knee surgery. So just to dive into what Josh Hart said, it's definitely a concern. He was asked about the potential of needing surgery on his knee injury that so far has been classified as right knee soreness. My guess is that it's some form of overwork because Josh Hart plays a lot of minutes, but we will discuss that as the video goes on. Hart himself spoke out on the injury, and Stephen Bondy mentioned that Josh Hart was listed on the injury report with a right knee soreness, an ailment that hasn't actually kept him from playing, but could potentially require a summer corrective procedure, which Hart spoke on and said, "I don't know about that. We'll see what it calls for at the end of the season. But like I said before, I'm a servant to my teammates this year. I want to make sure I put these guys in the best situation. It's not just for them. It's also for Coach Tom Thibodeau. I want to make sure that I'm available to him. I want to make sure I'm out there, I'm playing at a high level, and playing the game the way I know how to play. If I'm out there, if I'm healthy enough, and I'm good." So, obviously, Josh Hart speaking like Josh Hart, and he is being a servant to everyone else. I mean, putting up 14.5 points per game, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, getting 1.5 steals per game, shooting 55% from the field and 34% from three. Josh Hart is truly one of a kind when he is that type of player. He's the best role player in basketball, and even calling him a role player just feels like malpractice. It feels like the wrong way to describe a guy like Josh Hart, who is so much more to the Knicks than just a role player. But Hart now dealing with knee soreness, and it's a recurring theme now. We've seen this with Karl-Anthony Towns as well, and we've seen OG go down with a foot injury now. It's kind of hard to not look at this guy and think that the heavy minutes have nothing to do with it. I know Josh Hart is anti-minutes police. I understand that. But when you're an NBA player, you're going to want to play as many minutes as possible, and you're not thinking about getting injured. There comes a point when you look at your center who's dealing with knee soreness and just a vague knee injury. Same thing with Josh Hart, who's dealing with a vague knee injury, and OG Anunoby, who just went down with a foot injury, and Mitchell Robinson, who's been out all season after coming back too early from a foot injury. At what point do you start to look at the coaching and think, okay, maybe these heavy minutes are a problem? I find it hard to believe that Tom Thibodeau and the heavy minutes have nothing to do with this. I'm not saying they have everything to do with this, but it's certainly not helping. Josh Hart plays an absurd amount of minutes and goes very hard in those minutes, so it's understandable that he would go down with some injuries. Now, OG Anunoby, it's the same thing. He's playing more minutes than he ever has before, and luckily he has been upgraded to questionable recently, so that's a good sign. He could play against the Indiana Pacers, as my green screen just absolutely freaks out, but we could see OG Anunoby back before the All-Star break, which does contradict a report that Shams Charania said. So very good sign that OG is okay and healthy in the long run, which does kind of dispute the idea that it's on Tibs. Maybe OG was just standing wrong and he just sprained his foot. That's happened before. He's not the first guy who it happened to. He won't be the last. So there is that to be aware of. But you look at the minutes, and I mean, Mikal Bridges is the most minutes played in the NBA, and right behind him is Josh Hart. Now, OG was on this list as well until he went down with an injury, but we're seeing Josh Hart just play an absurd amount of minutes, and Mikal Bridges. And look, the other guys up there are superstars. Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, yeah, they're great, and they're playing heavy minutes as well, and they're fine. So maybe that's a sign of, you know what, it's not the end of the world. These guys play heavy minutes, and they survive. But not all of them are giving 1,000,000% the way Josh Hart does at all time, chasing down loose balls, being all over the court at once. And look, Josh should play heavy minutes, especially in the playoffs. I'm totally for Josh Hart getting 40 minutes per game in the playoffs. I'm totally for Mikal Bridges getting 40 minutes per game in the playoffs. But it's the regular season, and the Knicks, if they drop to 4, it means they avoid the Boston Celtics for longer and would face the Cleveland Cavaliers, someone who just clearly is not as NBA playoffs prepared as either the New York Knicks or the Boston Celtics, if we're being honest. So it would fit that the New York Knicks are better off becoming a 4 seed. So I'm not advocating for the Knicks to lose games, but I am saying give these guys rest, man. I understand that the All-Star break is coming up, but give them rest beforehand. Don't play Josh Hart against the Pacers or the Hawks. The Knicks have 2 games over the next 2 days. Today, Tuesday, February 11th, and tomorrow, Wednesday, February 12th, against the Indiana Pacers and Atlanta Hawks. Just sit them. Why not? I mean, nothing bad is going to happen if you sit these guys. It's really not. Maybe you lose. Oh, well. You're still going to make the playoffs at a high seed. Don't screw everything up because you're playing these guys too many minutes in the regular season. This has been a fear all year long, and now that we're halfway through the season, what we're seeing is multiple Knicks dealing with nagging injuries. I mean, Mikal Bridges playing the most minutes per game and Josh Hart being third. It's the same thing. Now, Mikal, knock on wood, has been very healthy throughout his NBA career, and he loves basketball, and he does not want to sit at all. So Mikal's having no problem playing these minutes. He's also just got excellent cardio that he can do it. Josh Hart, it's the same thing all around. Everything else that I said about Mikal is true about Josh Hart as well. But you know you're going to play Josh Hart 40-plus minutes per game in the playoffs. So why are you not giving him more rest now? I understand you need rebounding. I get that. But it's like, we're really just going to sacrifice all these guys to not be healthy during the NBA playoffs. I mean, Mikal and Josh Hart have the most miles traveled this season in the NBA. And, I mean, they're the only guys with 140-plus miles traveled. And Mikal Bridges has 153. Like, it's absurd. It's clearly a problem that Tom Thibodeau is playing these guys too many minutes. There's just no way around pretending like that's not an issue. Like, let's be real. It's a problem. Tom Thibodeau is playing these guys too many minutes. In all seriousness, we all know this. We've all known this all season long. And a lot of us have been saying, well, they'll be fine. They're NBA players. We know that Tom Thibodeau, he rests his guys a lot. They don't practice a ton. They don't practice very hard. The players have been adamant that they really get a lot of recovery time, and they're not getting worked to the death in practice. But it's like, it's just getting to this point where how could you not be worried about these minutes? I certainly am. I mean, OG Anunoby is now down with a foot sprain, and who knows when we'll see him again. It could be very soon. It could be after the All-Star break. He's putting up 16.5 points per game with 5 rebounds and 2 assists, getting a block and 1.5 steals per game. I am rounding up a little bit, but still same thing. 48% from the field, 36% from 3, 37% from corner threes. OG does everything right, and Tibs plays him a ton of minutes. And part of the reason Tibs plays these guys a ton of minutes is because they don't have a forward. They just don't. They don't have a backup forward throughout anyone in their lineup. Yes, they have Precious Achiuwa, who's a 4 or a 5, and he could take some pressure off them. But the Knicks desperately, it's just another reason why they need to bring up TJ Warren onto this team, because they're just dealing with injuries, and it gives just another body for the Knicks who can replace Josh Hart, replace Mikal, replace OG in the rotation for time being, especially when Precious and Mitchell Robinson might eventually have to start covering for Karl-Anthony Towns, who's also been dealing with a knee injury. He could not jump against the Boston Celtics. He looked clearly hurt. His knee clearly was bothering him, and he still played a ton of minutes. This is getting problematic, and there's no way around it. That's what's happening. And guys, I just want to hear from you guys in the comments. I want to know what you guys think about this. Let me know down below. I will subscribe. I'll subscribe. I will respond. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Knicks. Is it too many minutes? Let me know.